All right, so I want to thank everybody for joining us. Thanks for being patient with us while we got started here. So today we're going to be talking about how you can stay active at home doing cardiovascular exercise training without the need for gym equipment. So my name is Dr. Michael Fernandez. Joining me today is Shane Hogarth. He's in the background there. We're going to turn to him a little bit more here in just a moment. So real quick, I want to review a couple things about our discussion that we had last week. If you weren't with us, we talked about some of the updates in the world of the coronavirus and some of the developments, particularly with the vaccine, and some ways that you can help keep yourself healthy, including the benefit of cardiovascular and exercise training. We had this chart up, which shows that, which shows what the research demonstrates, and that's that with physical activity, there's a reduction in risk of community-acquired infectious diseases of up to 30%. There's also a reduction in infectious disease-related mortality of up to 37%. And there's also evidence that shows that people who are more physically active tend to have increased antibody concentration following vaccination. Now, it's important to clarify that this has not been specifically studied with the coronavirus, but with infectious diseases as a whole. So I'm not stating that this is specifically applicable to the coronavirus, but in general, there's plenty and ample research that shows that physical activity boosts your immune system, which is why it's important for us to find ways to do that, even if we don't have access to the gym. The CDC guidelines for adults are listed up here. So we want 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic physical activity, or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity activity per week. Children should have at least 60 minutes of activity per day. So what does that look like? There's several ways that you can look at this. Probably the easiest way for us to do this at home is called the Borg Scale. And I'm going to show you a different version of this in just a second. But what it is, it's a scale from 6 to 20. And what you do as you're exercising is you rate the level of your perceived exertion from 6 to 20. So if you look at the scale here, anything from 6 to 10 is very, very light to very light. This is probably going to be your resting state. If you want to operate, in order to get the benefits of that 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise, you want to be exercising between that 12 to 14 range that is circled on there. Now, anything above that, you're now into that vigorous zone. So that's where we talked about how 75 minutes or more of vigorous activity per week is recommended for adults. So you could choose either of those. But this is a good guideline for helping you set how intense your exercise can be. A more kind of streamlined or simplified version of that is the modified Borg rating scale, which is up here now. So a 0 out of 10 scale. 0 being pretty much being sitting here resting. And 10 would be basically the hardest exercise you've ever done. The area in green that's highlighted is your moderate to sort of hard. That's where you'd want to be if you were aiming to get that 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise per week. So you would want that activity for 150 minutes to be rated a 3 or 4 out of 10. Anything greater than that, now you're operating more into that vigorous zone. So if you're in that zone, now you're looking at targeting at 75 minutes or so per week. And again, these are recommendations. These are a minimum. So that's the minimum recommendation per the CDC guidelines. So what we're going to do next here is I'm going to pull in Shane and put him up on the screen. So just bear with me for a second. And we're going to go through some exercises here. In just a moment. If I can figure out how to actually pull this up. And it is being difficult on me. There we go. All right, we got it. Shane. All right, welcome, Shane. Sorry about that, everybody. A little bit of technical difficulties. It's not exactly my area of expertise. So this is Shane. He was demonstrate. So the first thing is if you ideally you'll have if you're someone balance, what you can do is make certainly if it's taller. The other option is that you can or you can use the in your on a stick and then you can put on to your back. Some of these also have what's the home green box back there. You could use that as well. A lot of these were available, I think probably in the 90s, they were pretty popular, but we still use them in the clinic, so I still think they're great. Okay, so these are some options for you to get started. Again, you want to go and rate yourself on one of those scales, either a 6 to 20 or that 0 to 10. And if you're not feeling like you're in that moderate intensity range, you probably want to pick up the speed that you're going, or you're going to want to pick a higher step in order to increase the intensity of the exercise. The next thing Shane's going to do is something that we're all pretty familiar with, is getting into some jumping jacks. Now, certainly, jumping jacks might not be appropriate for everybody. If you're having pain or difficulty with this, pain in the knees, pain in the hips, pain in the back, then I would certainly not recommend this exercise. If you are having difficulty with that, but would like to do some jumping jacks, I would recommend reaching out to one of either, if you have a physical therapist you like, reaching out to them and discussing that with them. We would be happy to consult with you in the office as well if you're having trouble with that. Next, another great thing you can do at home without any equipment is just jogging in place or marching in place. So marching in place, you're sure going to have typically a little bit slower, but you want to bring those knees up, swing those arms. This is going to be better for you, particularly if you maybe have joint pain or are concerned with the impact that running in place might cause. If you're concerned about balance, again, bring a chair over or something that you can hang on to, and you can just march in place like that. Otherwise, you can increase the intensity by then going into the jogging place. So I know we said we weren't going to use any equipment, but we are going to demonstrate just to remind people that we can go ahead and grab a jump rope. Some of us may have these lying around in our basements. Some of us might have these lying around in the gym or some old exercise equipment. And a great cardiovascular exercise. Fortunately, this jump rope is long enough for Shane. Might be a little bit too big for me, but after some practice, you'll get better at it than Shane is, so don't worry. All right, thanks, Shane. So if you're looking for something maybe a little bit more intense, Shane is going to demonstrate a burpee. So we're just going to take a look and see what that looks like. So you're coming down into a push-up position, coming up, and then jumping up towards the sky. So he's going to demonstrate a couple of those. So certainly this one's going to be a little bit more advanced. This one might be a little bit more challenging for some people. So Shane's going to turn sideways so you can see what that looks like from the side. All right, and now while he's down there, he's going to stay there. He's going to do some mountain climbers. So mountain climbers are a great exercise because they're going to work your upper body a little bit because you're going to have to maintain your body weight by holding your upper body up while also really working the lower legs and your lower body and really going to help get your heart rate up. It's also great for low impact exercise. It's going to be a little bit lower impact than running or maybe even jogging in place might be. So it might be a good alternative for that if you feel like you have the upper body strength to do that. All right, Shane, you can come on up. Next is something you could probably find some great videos, some kickboxing videos on YouTube. Maybe if you invested in some Taibo or Zumba videos, you can pop those in your VHS at home and start doing those. So Shane's just going to kind of stand here in place and just shadow box. So just increasing the resistance. You can bob a little bit, maybe even add in some kicks here and there, right? So alternating legs, doing some kicks. That's going to help get your heart rate up. It's also going to help your self-defense skills. All right, so the next thing Shane's going to do is something called linebackers. If you are familiar with football or football drills, this is a drill where you're basically in a little bit of a squatting stance, and your toes are, and your feet are moving pretty quickly up and down on the floor. This is a good alternative to running in place because if your feet aren't coming up as high, you're probably not going to have as much impact in your legs and your knees and your joints. So that would be an alternative if you don't want to do the marching, but the jogging in place is a little bit too much for you. All right, Shane, how you feeling?
Fantastic.
Do you feel like you broke a sweat?
Oh yeah.
So the other thing you can do is you can always mix these up. Certainly you don't want to get bored and fall off of doing these things. So you don't have to just pick one and stick with it. So you can certainly modify these to whatever suits your needs. So the last thing I'm going to do here is just to remind everybody, we're going to post this video on our YouTube page. If you go to Kinetic or go to YouTube and search for Kinetic TV, you'll be able to pull that information up. The other thing I have up here is some good resources for information related to the coronavirus. There's certainly a lot of information out there. Some of it's great, some of it's pretty poor, but these are reliable sources of information. The CDC.gov is one very reliable source. For those of us in the Chester County area, the chesco.org link that I have up there is great. For those of us who joined us last week, it also shows you when you'll be eligible to receive the vaccine and how the rollout is happening, so you can track that. The World Health Organization, if you want to see what's going on a larger scale, is great. So I highly recommend that link for some quality information as well. This link will be up. This video will be up on our Facebook for a while, but again, we'll also be posting it on our YouTube channel. There's also a lot of good content on there related not just to coronavirus, but back pain, to sleep, to nutrition. So please check that out. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email is here, mikef@kineticptpa.com. And I really appreciate everybody joining us. Please let me know if you have any questions and stay safe. Thanks, guys.